To control the visibility, let's go back to main navigation, because ultimately that is where we have the drawer and where we also have that menu button, that hamburger icon in the end. Here, I want to manage some state. I want to manage the state whether the drawer is opened or not. So we have to import use state from React. And then here, we can have our drawer is open state and set drawer is open as a function to update that state. And initially, let's say that is false with use state and the initial state. Now we can use drawer is open to only sometimes render this drawer. And one way of doing that is to wrap the drawer here into curly braces and then check if drawer is open is true. And if it is the case, with a ternary expression, render the side drawer, otherwise render null, which means render nothing. This is how we can conditionally render content in React. If we do that, you see it's not open now. By the way, we can also shorten this and take advantage of JavaScript and use the logical AND operator here, which means if this is true, this here will be rendered. This is how JavaScript works. It's vanilla JavaScript, so it has the same effect. Now we need to make sure that when we click our button, we do open the drawer. So on the button, we can add an onClick prop and then add a function to our main navigation functional component, which I'll name open drawer. And there I want to, well, open my drawer. So here I want to call set drawer is open and set it to true. Change the state to true. And here on click, I will point at open drawer. If we do that, I can now click this button and the drawer is there. It's not animated, but it's there. Unfortunately, now we can't close it anymore. So that's something we should fix. For that, I'll also add another function, close drawer. And here I want to set drawer is open to false, of course. The question just is, where do we trigger this? For that, we need a new component. A component we can render as a background to the drawer, so that when we then click this background, we close the drawer. And you find such a component attached. Backdrop zip holds a new component which you should add to your UI elements folder next to avatar and card. You have a backdrop CSS file and a backdrop.js file. The backdrop component also utilizes the portal concept, and therefore you should add such a backdrop hook place in your index.html file. Above the drawer hook, I'll add the backdrop hook. And the backdrop is simply, well, a backdrop, a background which is rendered behind the drawer, for example. Now in main navigation, I also therefore want to render the backdrop conditionally. So there we can check if drawer is open is true, and if it is, render the backdrop. Now important, you need to import backdrop in order to use it. So import backdrop from, and now let's go to UI elements and then backdrop. With that, we render the backdrop, and the backdrop component listens to a click on the backdrop, so on this background, and then emits a function it expects to get on an onClick prop its own. So on the backdrop, we can add onClick, because we do handle such a prop there, and bind that to close drawer. And now if we save this, we can open it. Now we have that background. It's a bit darker than before. If we click that, it closes. So that's great, but a little animation would be nice, right? So let's add an animation in the next lecture.